Onside Kick. Ricky Widmer here along with Dave Oster.
Hey, guys.
And Mark Weber.
How's it going?
And the week is finally here. We're not going to recap the Bears' last preseason game because honestly, guys, what is there to preview in their game against the Browns?
Both those quarterbacks got cut.
The ones that are cut now, Palmer and Edwards. But we're going to preview the entire Bears team front to bottom, give you everything we think about them, talk about some NFL stories, and maybe some college football thrown in here and there. But guys, the Bears. I think the biggest story, Jamarcus Webb no longer on the team.
Yep, it's a great day in Chicago. The sun came out. Everyone was out on the street rejoicing. People were singing songs out there.
And I think the best part is the tweet that he kind of threw out there. It didn't say that he was officially cut, but at 9:08 a.m., he said, "Goodbye, Chicago. I gave you 3 years of me."
And to which all Chicago responded, "That was 3 years too long. Please leave now."
Well, and I mean, this is what I'm thinking. This right here says that Trestman ain't going to put up with the that Lovey put up with.
Well, Lovie Smith put up with anything. Like, you could get away with so much with Lovie Smith just because you were one of his guys. The thing about Lovie and Jerry Angelo was we draft nice guys who really fit into the nice Christian values of the team.
So Tim Tebow.
Yeah, we should have had Tim Tebow on this team, really. But for some reason, we didn't draft Tim Tebow. But anyways, yeah, you could get away with pretty much anything as long as you're one of those guys. Rex Grossman is my quarterback. We all remember those good old days. So it's good to have that be that whole time frame and everything with that's done.
And the one thing I'm going to throw out there, because, I mean, to preview the quarterback position would kind of be, let's talk about Jay Cutler. But I'm going to throw it out there, hypothetical. Jay goes down. How confident are you in Josh McCown?
I'm confident in him being basically, I don't know. You can't say he's going to go out there and win you games. But he can set up some of your other playmakers to do great things like Matt Forte.
Or would you expect Blanchard to be back from injury, or would he still be on the practice squad?
No, I expect Blanchard to stay on the practice squad. If he had been healthy, maybe he could have taken the job from McCown, but I think McCown's the number 2 guy.
Is there a reason why the Bears are only running 2 quarterbacks?
I'm guessing we're just trying to clear up room in other areas, I guess.
To just put people on other positions, maybe like wide receiver?
Figure we don't need 3 quarterbacks. We got a guy on the practice squad. I doubt that little Palmer's going to get a job anywhere. We can go pick him up if we need him.
But I mean, like, to me, I kind of move right over to the running backs where, Forte's going to be on the team, Bush is going to be on the team. But if you had to pick third stringer, one of them's going to get cut. Do you take Armando Allen or Michael Ford, the rookie?
Well, I don't think it's official yet, but it seems like Armando Allen's being cut. And by the time this podcast is going up, Armando Allen, because we're recording it on Friday. And on Sunday, when this is going up, Armando Allen should not be on this team.
Well, and I mean, what has he done this preseason that Michael Ford hasn't done?
Michael Ford, the thing about Michael Ford is...
He can kick return.
Yeah, exactly. He can kick return. He can replace Devin Hester, which is probably going to happen
You think
soon.
he will be the one to replace Hester?
I think he will. I think Devin Hester's going to be here all this year.
So you kind of answered the question.
year-
You kind of answered the question I was going to ask you. Does Hester get traded?
I don't
At
think
all.
he will. I think he's on the team all year, and I just don't think he comes back next year. I don't think they're going to want him back. They got Michael Ford. They're set.
You don't think there's a team out there that be like, hey, you know what? Look at what he can do. He has the one thing I will say about Devin Hester, yes, he does have that. If you accidentally kick it to him, he can bust off a big play. He can put you in great field position or take the ball to the house. A team out there, maybe around week 7, week 8 trade deadline ain't going to be like, hey, you know what? The Bears aren't going to keep him at the end of the year. Why not try to get something for him and have a weapon like that on our special teams?
But if you know the Bears aren't going to keep him at the end of the year, you don't have to give anything for him. You don't have to give up anything. I think the situation is, what would you give for Devin Hester? Even a 7th-round pick seems a little much.
You think he's not even worth a 7-round pick?
You're just getting a kick returner.
True.
He's not a wide receiver. He's not a cornerback. He's not going to do anything except for return punts and kicks.
So let's talk wideouts. What's going on? What do you think? Because right now, Jeffrey and Marshall are 1-2. Bennett's 3. I'm looking at Marquise Wilson, a guy out of Washington State. Does he make the team?
He should make the team. I think this is one of the reasons why we're kind of moving players around and kind of getting rid of some of the guys that some people think were on the fence, because I think we want Wilson on this team. He's got the body for it. Physically, he's going to be a great wide receiver, and he's shown some great flashes in the preseason. We just need him to basically be like 4th, maybe 5th on the depth chart, and just sit there, come in every now and then, play a bit, refresh when someone's hurt, and just slowly ease into the game.
And I just think, when I think Marquise Wilson, is he going to be successful at all? Because he's a player that's had some troubles when he was with the Cougars of Washington State.
Yeah, but, I mean, the things that you're going to do as a younger college student, I think that gets that at least it should get knocked out of your system pretty well once you get into the NFL. And you got, Brandon Marshall sitting up there leading the wide receivers corps saying, yeah, that's not going to fly. You can't do anything like that nowadays.
And we know he's going to make the team, but what are we expecting? I think Jeffries is going to be a guy, I'm putting him spotlight for this wide receiver corps, because we've talked about it. Jay Cutler loves his Brandon Marshall. He loves to throw to him. And I want to see Alshon Jeffrey say, you know what? Throw to me a little bit more. I'm a quality number 2 on this team.
Over under on Jeffries with catches. Will it be over 50?
I say, yeah, over. Because we got to remember that he was hurt for a while last season. And, of course, assuming he's going to be healthy, but he didn't get to be used as much as he should. I think that bond between him and Jay is just going to grow this season and become something very strong.
You said over under 50? See, it depends, because I know the Bears last season were a different team, but let's just look at the receiving receptions to how many times they were targeted. Marshall had 118 receptions, was targeted almost 200 times.
A little bit much.
Earl Bennett was only targeted 50 times and only made 29 catches, where Matt Forte was targeted 60 times at 44 catches, and he's not even a wide receiver. He's your halfback. So, I mean, look, if I'm looking at last year's stats, if I'm a stats guy, I'm saying under. I'm hoping it's over, though. The Bears will not be successful if their receiving stats look like they did in 2012.
And I think that's one of the reasons why you have Mark Trestman here as the head coach. He's known for making quarterbacks very successful. He's known for taking them to the next level. And part of that's going to be those wide receivers stepping up and doing more. And that's one reason why I think Alshon Jeffrey is going to be a great year for him.
Well, I'm just saying Devin Hester. Does he just play kick returns, or do we see him as a wide receiver?
I don't expect Devin Hester to do anything besides return kicks.
You think that's all he's going to be good for, is just returning kicks?
The only thing that might happen, you might see a few plays every now and then where he shows up and runs the ball. But I don't expect to see it happen more than twice, maybe 3 times.
Okay, rounding out the offensive line. We talked about Jamarcus Webb, no longer going to be there. Honestly, if Kyle Long doesn't start, I think that's stupid because of how high you drafted him. This is going to be, out of all the positions, the most looked for the Bears because of how bad it has been in past years.
Yeah, and I think the big spotlight on this is definitely Cutler is going to be pressuring them more too, because he knows his contract is going to be on the line soon. His name has been thrown around as a hot seat, not just in Chicago, but more of a nationwide viewpoint.
Do you think that, it's an interesting point. We didn't bring that up with Jay. Do you think that if the Bears don't make the playoffs, does Chicago call for getting rid of Cutler?
I think Chicago
over Trestman.
I think as Bears fans, I think we're all in on Cutler. But
how long are you going to be all in on him? If you take a step back
and look at his results, you kind of have that, well, his numbers aren't great. He's not really getting the job done, second thought. And you're like, well, if there's somebody there, I wouldn't mind taking him.
I don't know. It's an interesting spot. I doubt the Chicago Bears are going to be in a position to get one of the top quarterbacks.
Right.
And if all
goes well.
Yeah, if you're not going to get one of your top 2 quarterbacks, and I don't consider a guy like Johnny Manziel to be a top 2 quarterback, then I don't see why you would replace Jay Cutler. Maybe you can draft a quarterback like 3rd round or something and let him sit and learn for a bit.
I can see the Bears organization going that way because we've been on a hunt for a backup quarterback for about a decade.
Every year we bring in a new guy at backup quarterback, and it never seems to quite work out.
But I definitely think there's going to be the pressure. I think is going to be from the outside more than the actual Chicago fan base. Seem pretty loyal to him.
So you're talking more of a national coming in saying, "Hey, you know what? Where Chicago's going to be like, he's our guy."
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing, and I'm just not sure how Mark Trestman's going to handle that because I haven't, been able to track him over his career with dealing with players who maybe on the line players. I mean, Cutler's got all the talent. You just got to put it together. Because I think my whole thing is this is all going to come down to performance this year and a playoff win.
Because with Cutler, looking at his whole career thus far, his days in Denver, his only postseason was 2010. But, his days in Denver weren't really glory days. His first season in the league, he only played 5 games. But the thing I see with Chicago is if Jay wants to be successful, he's going to have to take off the handcuff to Brandon Marshall. Because if he handcuffs himself to Marshall and continues to be like, he's my target, he's my target, he's my target, he's not going to be successful with the Bears. And if I'm the Bears organization, I look and go, hey, we traded for you, got you in 2009. You've been here 4 years, only 1 playoffs. I know that the offensive line has been bad. You got to put more around them. Will Trustman do that? Yes. Come on. We cut Jamarcus Webb. That should be a
3 new
step in the right
for our
direction.
offensive line, and I think that's fantastic. And I totally agree with you that Jamarcus Webb was a giant holdback on that line, giant disappointment. And
we talked about him last week getting replaced by a 5th pick. He over a 5th rounder, and he was a 7th rounder.
Exactly. And maybe it was just too high of an expectation for a guy who came in and showed some early promise and then quickly reverted to his old ways.
I feel like the time is coming for Jay, and it's especially in a contract year where Chicago has to sit down and say, if we don't make the playoffs this year, is Jay really the right guy for us?
That's a scary question.
The playoff thing, I'm not as convinced. I say if the Bears are above 500, you keep Jay Cutler without a doubt because he's got everything he needs. It's hard to get rid of a guy and say he's not our guy.
Who still wins games, right?
He still wins games, and also it's the first year of a new system. And how many new offensive coordinators and offensive systems has Jay Cutler been in when in Chicago?
See, and this is one thing I just thought of. Do you think that, and I'm not saying it would happen, let's say that Chicago doesn't get weary of that. What if Trestman goes, you know what? I didn't like this first year. Hey, Phil, let me get my guy. Jay is not my guy.
And he's known for scouting, so there is the potential that he might do that. But I think, if anything, Mark Trestman might be the kind of guy to say, I know a guy who's going to be in the 4th round. We'll take him.
Let's take him and let him sit behind Cutler.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that you're going to see out of Trestman because he is just like, well, at least he's known for being a scouting mastermind.
And maybe it's because, and I'm just going to throw out, maybe it's because I'm not the Chicago Bear guy. I'm a fan of another team in the division, why I'm asking these little tougher questions. Bears don't make the playoffs. How much are you willing to pay Cutler at the end of the year?
Depends if A, Cutler's healthy, B, touchdown interception rate. I'm sorry. He is a gunslinger, and yeah, that's high risk, high reward. And we've seen that.
I'm just going to throw it out there. 19 touchdowns, 14 interceptions last year.
Yeah, it's definitely going in the right direction. Definitely. So I think those two are the biggest things. I think this offensive is completely set up to succeed. So it's just a lot of pressure on him this year.
And since he's been in Chicago, his touchdown to interception, 27-26, 23-16, 13-7. That was 10 games in 2011, and then last season 19-14.
I think the biggest thing about Jay Cutler is the health. With the new offensive line, I think that's obviously going to be improved. But at the same time, he does have a little bit of that mobile sense in him where he'll bootleg out. He'll move around, extend plays, and that does put some of his health at risk at times. I think that's the biggest concern for me. Obviously, touchdowns, interceptions, that's a big deal. Wins, that's a big deal as well. But you just want to see that he, at the end of the year, will still be playing and he'll still be healthy.
Right now, this season, Jay Cutler has a $10 million cap hit on the Bears, and he's $20 million guaranteed. Do you see the Bears, and yet again, throwing out this question, if they don't make the playoffs, are you content with giving Cutler the same amount of money that you have him in this contract that you gave to him when he came here after the trade?
I kind of think you have to at this point. There's no, like Mark said, unless we tank so incredibly hard that we're going to get like a top quarterback in the draft.
And there's no
Cutler gives us the best chance to win for the near future. There's no other options for us available. So
And I was going to say, there's no Cam Newton, there's no RG3 in this year's draft. Well, things can change over a season, but right now, your top quarterback prospect is Teddy Bridgewater, and I don't think the Bears are going to get a chance to get him.
Yeah.
Because if they suck, it's going to be that like middle of the pack type.
Sadly, we can't suck nearly as hard as the New York Jets. I apologize.
It's a tough thing to really ask. I mean, the money, obviously, we aren't the guys who are, up in the GM booth. We're not making those decisions. We don't really know how financial situation is going to work. We don't know who's going to be top priorities next year. Obviously, Jay should be towards the top, and I think even if you don't make the playoffs, he gets a good contract. Around what he's got now, I'm completely fine with that. I'm fine if he gets a little bit more as well. But I think Jay Cutler is going to be well aware of the fact that he can't take a huge contract if we're going to go far in the playoffs.
Well, Dave asked the over-under for Alshon Jeffries with receptions. How many? I'm not going to put an over-under, but with this offensive line, how many times is Jay Cutler on his back this year? Because that's a good question to ask, because that's something that we kind of see most of the time.
Well, Mark, you led into this a little bit earlier, how Jay Cutler's mobility tends to lead him to extending plays, but it also tends to lead him on his ass. It's a huge problem. And apparently, in the past couple of years, they started to notice the same thing going on in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers, fantastic quarterback. His ability to extend plays with his athleticism.
But Aaron Rodgers throws to many receivers.
But it doesn't matter because he holds the ball too long.
True.
Which causes more sacks, which makes his offensive line look worse than it is. Which I believe could be a factor with this Bears offense and something that I haven't looked too far personally into. But it's worth noting, definitely. So I do like Cutler's ability to extend plays, but I think he's going to be on his back a lot. He needs to get rid of the ball quickly. We've got two big wide receivers lined up on the outside, so you can do those quick passes out to them, and nobody's going to muscle inside.
Well, not just that. You pick up a tight end. How's Martellus Bennett going to play in that? We haven't talked about the tight ends yet. Throw that in there. How's Bennett going to be? Because I'm assuming he's going to be the number one starter come week one.
It's a safe assumption right there. I think he's going to do a good job. He's a big target, and he's going to be very useful, especially in the red zone. Having Jeffrey, Marshall, and Bennett, and we're talking Martellus Bennett, all in the red zone. Those are three really big targets.
Earl Bennett, too, but like we said, he's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just saying, like, your biggest targets in the red zone, these are physically big guys who can hold on to the ball.
And not to backtrack, but, like, just to Cutler's mobility, I think another thing with Jay Cutler, I sound like a broken record here, is I feel like it goes on in Jay's head when he bootlegs, when he has to get out of the pocket, something's happening, and right away, where's my guy? Where's my safety blanket? And that's where we see mostly interceptions.
And he's like, triple coverage, I can make that throw.
Well, he's not Brett Favre.
A big issue is for Jay is that he's never trusted anyone, like, besides Brandon Marshall.
And Trussman needs to get him over that really quickly.
Yeah, and I think that was a nice thing about Earl Bennett. He did have some trust of Earl Bennett going back to the Vanderbilt days, but it's basically been that. I mean, that's why we got to really hope that Martellus Bennett becomes a guy he can trust, that Alshon Jeffrey becomes someone he can trust. And these guys need to be playing with him for a long period of time, not having dropped passes, not fumbling the ball, so that way Jay knows, I can trust any of these guys. I can go to any of them. And he doesn't focus in on just, where am I going to go? You know,
And I can still remember that game last year when absolutely just got rocked out of his helmet. And it was just like, okay, he breaks cover. He breaks out of the pocket, making a little run for it. And then he's looking downfield, about to cross the line of scrimmage, throws one up, and right after he lets go, just pop. And I was like, oh, he ain't getting back up. And that's the thing. It's the big hits because you're just trying to get that one more step in, one last throw. It's okay to throw the ball away every once in a while and not give up the big interceptions.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I feel like I don't know. This is it's an interesting year for the Bears because it's a new head coach, and it's not just new head coach. It's a new head coach in Jay Cutler's contract year.
I think one thing we do need to remember, though, with Jay, and when it comes to the sacks, is the West Coast offense. Using the West Coast offense, it's going to be a lot of quick throws, and those are the things that get implemented pretty quickly. So you're going to have all those quick passes, which are going to save him some years on his life.
I hope so.
You know, because he's not hopefully going to be able to get the ball out quicker than people can get to him.
And how is this West Coast offense going to change Matt Forte? Because Matt Forte, 1,000-yard rusher last season, but only had 5 touchdowns on the ground.
Well, he's not the red zone kind of guy. That's why we have Michael Bush.
But are we gonna see maybe some more big yardage touchdowns from Forte because of the West Coast offense?
Well, that's going to come from the additions with Mills and Long. Long, right now, he might not have everything he needs to be a very successful offensive lineman, but what he does have is that big physical body and just the instincts to lead the charge and let Matt Forte just follow him down.
Because I'm going to throw it out there. I know he's a different runner than who I'm going to say, but look at Adrian Peterson in the West Coast offense. I know he's a different back, but, I mean, could Matt Forte have the similar success? Maybe not on the Eric Dickerson level, though?
Yeah. The thing with Adrian Pearson is he's a different beast. I'm sorry.
He's in his own
I
league.
I wish that Matt Forte was close to that, but he's just not at this point.
You also need to remember that, obviously, with the wide receivers that we have compared to the wide receivers that the Vikings had a season ago, we want to pass the ball.
Well, yeah.
We don't want
I'm
to
not saying you're going to run all the time, but, like, is the West Coast offense going to be a good thing for Matt Forte this upcoming season? I know we're talking a lot about the passing game in Chicago, but you guys got a good running back in the backfield, too.
Yeah, what I've seen out of the Bears preseason, when we did see the first string of starters in, was really, really big emphasis on getting blocks down the field and people not giving up on plays. You know, there's a lot of wide receivers in the league who just half-ass it. When they know it's a running play, they'll just stand around and kind of push the DB a little bit. No, you saw Marshall downfield throwing blocks. You saw Jeffrey downfield throwing blocks. You see offensive linemen 10 yards down the field setting up screen passes still. And it's just like, these guys are really, really doing their job. And that's just going to lead to a lot of big breakout runs. I think Forte is going to have a very good year, especially when it comes to yards per carry. Because like Mark said, he's not going to be our go-to red zone back anymore. That's on Bush to get those hard yards. Forte is going to be able to bust open some wide runs. And I think he's going to have a very successful year.
I'm gonna give you 2 over-unders for Forte. Number 1, over-under 1,000 yards.
I think Forte is going to be steady right around 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I would say he's going to be under 1,000 yards, but it's not going to be by that much.
And the second one, he had 4.4 yards per carry last season, over-under 5 per carry.
5 is a lot, okay? I'd see maybe the upper end of, like 4.7, but 5 yards per carry in the NFL is an absurd amount. And that would take some special sort of act. I'm sorry.
I mean, if he can do it, I'd be thrilled. But I don't see...
No one's rooting against him.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see him getting over 5 yards per carry. That'd be crazy.
And just to give you a little insight, the only guys to average 5 or more yards per carry last season, Marshawn Lynch, Jamar Charles, Cam Newton, quarterback, C.J. Spiller, Adrian Peterson, and Robert Griffin III with 6.8.
Yeah. A lot of good did for RG3.
The stanky leg getting injured. But, I mean, moving on to the Bears' defense, let's look at defensive line. And the first thing I look at when I look at the Bears depth chart. Right now, they have listed as first string Corey Wooten / Shea McClellan, and then second string Cornelius Washington. What do you do on the left side of the line? That looks stacked to me.
That makes me extremely happy because you know what that means? We're going to see a lot of fresh legs, a lot of people full of energy because they're going to have the time to go to the sideline, grab some Gatorade, catch their breath, come back in, next play. So that means we're going to be applying pressure all day. And you're right, we are stacked as far as those defensive ends go.
The defensive line is awesome. I love it. Especially, obviously Peppers, he's always going to draw the attention.
And he's not going to get the break that Dave was talking about.
No, Julius Peppers, you don't take that guy off.
Julius Jardinere-Peppers is not the guy to go grab some Gatorade in the middle of a drive.
Exactly. You got Wooten, you got McClellan, and they can do different things. McClellan's very much going to be, hey, you guys want to pass the ball? Have fun with it because I'm coming right for you.
Can McClellan play linebacker too? Is that right? Is he a hybrid guy?
Yes, he definitely can. If we had 3-4, if we were a 3-4 defense, he would be exceptional.
Over Bostic? Because if you had a 3-4 defense, wouldn't you'd have Williams and Bostic in the middle, and then Anderson and Briggs on the outside?
You'd probably have Briggs and McClellan on the outside.
You would put McClellan in over James Anderson?
And a 3-4 defense, I definitely would. And if we ever do go to a 3-4 defense just periodically, which I severely doubt we'll ever do,
okay,
then I would love to see McClellan out there at linebacker because it's what he does really well. He does that arguably better than he does at defensive end.
See, the two things, and maybe this is because, like I said, I'm more familiar with the Vikings than I am the Bears. I'm looking at this defensive line, and my only question mark is, how is Melton and Plea, maybe Nate Collins comes in for a few snaps? How's the middle of that defensive line going to shape up for the Bears this season?
The middle, our defensive tackles probably aren't the bright spot of the defensive line. It's hard to be when you got Julius Peppers out there. But Melton should be fine. Nate Collins proved to be pretty decent when he was needed to come in. Paye is, once again, he's not one of those great guys, but he can get it done. When you have these exceptional defensive ends that we have, fortunately, it takes a little bit of the pressure off the defensive line. They just need to basically do their job because the double coverage is on Julius Peppers every time. So they just need to be able to do enough to get the pressure on. They don't need to be exceptional. I think they should hopefully be just fine.
Well, and the one thing, unless I'm missing something by just glancing over the Bears' schedule, the one thing that I think looks good for them, there's no team that they play with a real, I'm going to pound it up the middle on you. I mean, you play Adrian Peterson twice, and Adrian Peterson, like we said, is in a league of his own. But, I mean, the only team, like I said, unless I'm missing something, that has a guy that can just pound it up the middle, maybe Washington with Alfred Morris?
Yeah, he is really the only true power back in that first half of the lineup for the year.
Well,
so.
I mean, unless you put DeMarco Murray in that category.
No, DeMarco Murray's a smaller back. Actually, okay, you got Adrian Pierce. I'm sorry. That's just freak of nature. And then Morris. I totally agree with you.
What about Eddie Lacy if he starts in Green Bay? I forgot about him. I just thought about him.
I'm not super impressed with Lacy at this point. From what I've seen in preseason, I gotcha. But what I've seen out of him is he just isn't adapting quite as well as I would have hoped to the NFL level, the NFL speed, and size. It's mostly size. He's used to being able to bounce off these defensive ends who are about the same size as him.
And he can't do that in the NFL.
Not going to happen anymore. Sorry.
See, and like I said, we said Adrian Peterson, league of his own. And the Bears play some good rushers. Peterson, Morris, Ray Rice. Maybe when they put Pearson in Baltimore, maybe that might be a problem. Trent Richardson, he's one of those just good running backs, but there's no true pounded up the middle, no Jerome Bettis type backs, I'm going to say.
There aren't any of those anymore in the league. I mean, you got Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
He's about as close as it gets. Frank Gore is up there. I mean, there's a very few top-end power backs like that in the league. So I guess it's very favorable. But, I mean, Melton had a fantastic year last year, guys. He made a Pro Bowl. It's just like, what? I don't see too many problems with this. defensive line at all.
Then let's move on linebackers, okay? The first thing I'm looking at, you got the middle of that linebacking core. You got DJ Williams. How often are we going to see Bostic then?
Well, Bostic's going to be the starter.
You think he's going to start over DJ Williams?
Oh, without a doubt. Bostic got to start in the preseason the entire time. DJ Williams was too busy being hurt. You know, especially when you have a new coach, you're both new to this team, whoever gets to play is going to keep playing.
So you think just because Williams was a little hurt, Bostic is going to be the starter?
And Bostic went out there and got it done every day. He amazed everybody with his exceptional speed, his play recognition, his ability to keep going, and he could go from one end to the other.
Made Chicago say Urlacher who?
Exactly. I mean, he did an amazing job. Blew us all away. We didn't see it coming. Well, most of us didn't see it coming. And we're thrilled.
And Dave's kind of giving me a look when I said Urlacher who, like, not really.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He has a lot of qualities that are similar to Urlacher, though, and that's good news for every Chicago fan out there. You're right, and I think the most favorable thing is that sideline-to-sideline presence, which we were really missing out towards the end years with Urlacher.
And I will say, who brought that up in our draft podcast? The guy who was just talking, Dave Oster.
Yeah, I kind of pegged that one.
First thing Dave said when we talked about the Bears draft, I like this kid out of Florida.
I'm going to say I'm a big fan of recruiting and drafting. That's what I do. So if you're looking for any tips, just hit me up. You know? But I'm sorry, DJ Williams is a veteran pro. I don't think that we're going to see a whole lot of, I think there's a better chance of there being split time at that position, which seems like a weird setup. But I don't know if Trustman's ready to hand over the reins to this defense to a rookie.
And I might be mistaken. Williams was formerly with Denver, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Just making sure I was correct.
Yep. And that's the thing. I know Briggs is like the number 2 man as far as everything. It's run through Peppers, and then as far as the secondary, it's Briggs in that.
The way I see it is, I'm just talking linebacking core. Yeah. Urlacher leaves. Briggs steps up. Briggs is now the guy as that linebacking core.
Briggs has never been that all-in guy as far as Chicago goes. He's tried to leave the team 3 different times.
True.
I just don't get the whole sense of leadership,
I'm just saying kind of you could say more not leadership, but seniority type.
He definitely does.
Like, Urlacher was the first. Now it's Briggs has the most seniority on that linebacking crew.
Briggs was known for, I want my money or I'll leave, or just maybe I'll try somewhere else type of situations. But I think now that Urlacher's gone, and the focus and the spotlight kind of moves over a little bit to the left there, and you see Briggs suddenly is thrilled about it. I don't think he's ever going to talk about leaving again. I don't think he's ever going to be demanding his money or he's out of here. I think what really is going to do it for him is, now it's my team. It was Brian Urlacher's team. Now it's my team. And he might not be the same kind of leader as Brian Urlacher was, but I think he's going to be effectively in control of that defense, and I think he's going to thrive with that.
See, but I don't know. There's 3 guys on this defense that when you say, like, oh, it's my team, the 3 guys on this defense that can kind of say that, Tillman and Briggs for sure.
Yep.
And kind of Peppers because of how he's been since he got to Chicago.
Yeah, he's absolutely fit into this team perfectly as far as his mentality towards the game, his work effort. I mean, this guy is perfect fit for the city, perfect fit for the team.
Like, I got to think back far to remember, oh, yeah, that's right, he was with Carolina.
It's been a few years.
He was with Carolina. He came to Chicago, and he's a Bear. Peppers is a Bear.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, Tillman, that secondary, Tillman is a leader, born leader, and
well, not only do you have Tillman, you have Tillman and Jennings on each side.
One of the best tandems in the NFL.
You have Bowman, Zach Bowman, who can do well, and just look at the complete secondary. Major Wright, Chris Conti, Craig Stelt is even a good guy. I mean, this Bears secondary, I'm going to say it right now. If you're drafting, if you haven't had your fantasy football draft yet, first defense on the board, the Seahawks look good, but I might take the Bears again as a first defense.
They had a phenomenal year as far as turnovers last year.
Going for touchdowns, too.
I
believe they had more defensive touchdowns than the worst offense in the NFL last season.
It's very possible. I can't quote you on it, but it sounds like a good enough fact to sound okay.
I think for this defense, obviously, you're known for takeaways. That didn't go away, which was the big thing.
Don't forget to go to Red Robin when you get those takeaways.
Yeah, pretty
free
much.
double tavern burger.
You're going to get one every week. So, but yeah, that's the big thing. That mentality didn't go away. It didn't go away that we strip the ball. We're going to take it from you. They take the term takeaway very seriously in Chicago, and I think that doesn't change. That's the big thing about your secondary, but even your linebackers. We've seen that John Bostic has gone out and got it done right off the bat, and I think things like that is just showing he fits into the Bears culture. He might not be out there every single down, but I think he's going to be out there. The Bears defense is no different than the Bears defense has ever really been when it's at its peaks.
And like I look at this defense as a whole unit, and I say to myself, looking at their schedule, this might be a bold prediction. There's not one team on this schedule that is either going to run all over this Bears defense or pass all over this Bears defense. If there's a big loss on the schedule, it's going to be because what did the Chicago offense not do, or what did they do wrong?
I don't know. I've got a couple worries here.
Which ones? Well, at Green Bay on Monday night
The Green
has
Bay
to be
games
number
are
one,
always just they're always a toss up at this point.
especially when
But
it's in
Aaron
prime
Rodgers
time.
does have trouble against the Bears defense.
Yeah,
Well, if the Packers do what they did last year on Thursday Night Football and say, "Hey Jay, throw to someone else," oh wait, that's right, you can't.
but now we got Jeffrey.
Fortunately, we don't have to play Green Bay for a while.
Yeah,
So
And it's coming off of a bye, which could be good for the Bears.
Yeah, so Jay Cutler's
Have
going to
that
have
extra
time to
week.
figure out
Be a little
all right,
healthier,
who's my
you
number
know.
two.
mentally prepare for
Yeah.
them a little
but, I
bit
mean,
more.
you got Drew Brees in the fifth week of the
Eli.
season.
Well, you got Breeze, Eli, RG3.
I'm okay because Brees is the only one I'm worried about there. Eli, great quarterback, slightly diminished Giants this year. I'd be more worried about David Wilson at this point.
Eli himself has come out and said that the offense is not performing at the level it needs to perform. He's already called out his own offense, so I don't think the Giants are really much to worry about right now.
Yeah.
What about then RG3? Are you worried about the Redskins at all?
We'll see if he's still in one piece at that point.
You think he won't be starting week one?
I think there's a very high chance to re-injure himself. Although he could come out and pull an AD and just surprise us all.
And I think the only other team we talked about the Packers. Dave, you said Breeze. What about Joe Flacco?
No,
Is he going to cause a problem for the Bears, or is it going to be more on Ray Rice?
I don't even see us having a huge problem with the Ravens, to be
You don't
honest
think
with
the
you.
Ravens are
We
going
play
to
them
be
close every year, and I don't think it's one of those games where they have a chance to really blow us out. Because they've lost their over-the-middle weapons, I don't see them... They're relying completely on the deep ball, and then some guys to step up. So I know we're playing them a little bit later in the season, so maybe they'll have a chance to figure out that offense a little bit better. But I really don't have a huge problem going up against that Ravens offense. The thing that worries me is Philadelphia. I know it's the end of the year, so I'm
'Cause
like,
what-
Mike Vick, will he be healthy?
Well,
Maybe
not just that. It's kind of like, Mark, me and you have had conversations. Philadelphia this year, it's like, what do you expect?
You expect something similar to what the Patriots have been running, except a little more up-tempo. Mm-hmm. And
With the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know what to expect until I see them play a real regular season game. That's how I feel.
the only good news from that is we know that Peppers is used to playing contain on Vic. The thing that worries me is Shane McClellan because he's notorious for just getting beat. He goes too far upfield and loses track of the
It's
quarterback.
like, oh, Peppers is on this side. Well, Vic just run the other way.
Yeah, and that's the only thing. I think, a little more focus for McClellan and he'll
See,
be okay.
But the thing that you mentioned earlier, let's say we get to that game, they decide to go the other way. You talk about Bostic, his good movement laterally.
He
Maybe
definitely
he can
does.
help to contain Vic as
Fortunately,
well.
we had some trouble against mobile quarterbacks just last year at the end of Urlacher's career. But the Chicago Bears have always been known for being really good against quarterbacks that want to run. And when quarterbacks want to go,
You
Tampa
said
2,
you said good against quarterbacks.
oh, we're great
Okay.
against them. Because the whole Tampa 2 is we're waiting for you to do something. And when you got a guy like Brian Urlacher, what Brian Urlacher was able to do so well.
Can you answer something for me then?
Hey, let the man finish his
Okay.
Brian Urlacher preach.
Okay.
What Brian Urlacher was able to do is just sit there and watch.
Then
Because
what-
he's in the middle.
We got that spy out there.
Exactly. He's just going to watch, and that's something that John Bostic can do perfectly.
Then why did you lose 32-7 to San Francisco and 23-17 to Russell Wilson in
I said
Seattle?
besides last year.
Okay.
the last couple of years we've been falling off a bit, and honestly, it's because Brian Urlacher's not in his peak anymore. You didn't have the main guy in the center anymore running everything. It didn't work out so well.
Yeah, and even when he was out there, his back was completely destroyed, and he lost a lot of mobility.
Yeah, exactly. You got this one guy, and especially when you do have the spy, you can't have your spy on the quarterback not be able to keep up with the quarterback.
Absolutely, but again, the thing with Philadelphia, multiple weapons out there. So I'm excited to see them play,
especially when they
just in
pull out
general.
that 4 tight end set.
You keep
The one
that
that Mark loves to talk about.
The 4 tight end set. First of all, I'm excited to use it in Madden. I'm really excited to use that in Madden. That's gonna be fun. But here's the thing about the 4 tight end set. I don't understand why you would use it, but it's extremely
You
incredible.
You need 4 tight ends on the roster.
You
to
gotta
use
have
it.
4 tight ends. It's just unbelievable. Like the fact that you would use a 4 tight end set.
Unless you can shove a fullback at the tight end, but who uses a true fullback anymore?
And how do you? It really is. It's amazing logic of how are you going to cover a 4 tight end set? Who are you going to put? And you just got to guess which one's the best? Who's the best wide receiver? Are out of that group,
Yeah.
basically, and put your good guys against them because they're going to pick on your linebackers.
Well, last thing about the Bears, I think the theme for most of it was over-under, so Bears season as a whole, over-under 9 wins.
Over. I talked a
over?
lot of smack during our preseason talk and first look at the Bears team. I was extremely happy with them. I watched the preseason. I gotta say, I gotta step it down a little bit. I did have them winning like 13 games.
I think so.
So I am gonna step that down.
But at
a
the
bit.
same time, remember, just a year ago, Dave said that the game against Seattle was going to be a little gift in the middle of the season.
I guarantee you, if their quarterback was not Russell Wilson, it would have been a little gift.
Well, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna quote that and say that Week 10 against the Lions is gonna be a little gift for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
You want the Lions to go to the playoffs or something?
Are you wishing something bad?
I don't think
I'm the one who was talking up the Lions last week.
I don't think the Lions can go to the playoffs, but that's just me.
I say it was 9 wins.
9 wins.
I think we can be over 9 wins. I don't see why
How
we can't.
much over 9 wins?
I
Is
think
it a 10-win season or is
10
it
and
more?
11 is totally reasonable.
Yeah. I would go for either one. I think 10 wins in this season will get the Bears into the playoffs, unlike last season. I think they can get in with 10 wins, and that'll be fine.
Would you be happy with just let's say the Bears get 10 wins, they make the playoffs. Are you happy with just a playoff appearance, or do you have to win a playoff game to be
Depends if
successful?
we're facing the Packers in the first round. I think that changes a lot of things.
I think, honestly, with everything, I think we're all very high on the Bears this year. We really are. But we got to remember that
with
there's...
good reason. I mean,
Yeah,
new
it
head
seems like
coach.
they plugged all of the issues that we've had. It's like, okay, our offensive line was crap. Let's go out and get 3 new offensive linemen to start for us. Hey, we need more weapons on offense. Let's go pick up some Martellus Bennett, and we're gonna get Jeffrey back healthy with a year of experience, so he'll be a better route runner. Maybe he'll learn to keep his feet in balance and his hands to himself. None of that offensive interference bullshit that we saw last year.
Steve Smith Jr.
Well,
But
and I mean,
I think one thing we
go
know,
ahead, Mark.
We are very high on the Bears, but we need to also remember that there's a lot of change on the Bears right now, and they're all positive changes. But with that being said, things could go wrong.
Yeah, I don't expect us to score more touchdowns on defense and offense for the majority of the year. That probably won't happen.
Well, the way I think about it is when you were a kid and you got a new toy, were you excited about that new toy, or were you like, man, this toy sucks?
Greatest thing in the world for 2 weeks.
Usually, and that's what Bears fans are like right now. We've had an entire preseason to just, oh man, what is Mark Trestman going to do with it? We got a new head coach. It's like having a new toy. And 2 weeks into the season, if the Bears start to suck, Bears fans might be like, well, this toy sucks. Or if they start doing well, you keep playing with the toy.
Well, that's why I want to say that, although I'm saying we can get to 10 wins, anything above 500, with a team that has so many changes, anything above 500 you're happy with. Remember, every coaching position changed. Every single one. Above 500, you're happy.
Total revamp.
Yeah, it was complete. We kept a lot of things. Tampa 2's still there. West Coast offense is new. Things like that. But it's so many new things. Above 500, be happy.
Well, now to kind of go more national, the biggest storylines have always been teams with quarterback battles or quarterbacks with injuries. That will they start week 1?
Will Tim Tebow start for the Patriots?
Yes.
Or will he be on the practice squad?
No, he's going to start.
Really,
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, he's going to go to the Super Bowl.
He only threw how many interceptions?
All
in
he
that
does
game?
is win, right?
I think he only threw
All
2.
he wins.
But I think he threw 2 touchdowns, too, at the same time. So
Totally.
Didn't he have an interception too?
yeah. Definitely.
Okay. But I mean, the two that are highly talked about, because I don't think anyone's talking about Tim Tebow except for Mark Weber. RG3 said, he tweeted, he's like, I'm going to start week 1. He's cleared. And the Jets said they will likely start Geno Smith week 1 of the season.
And the Jets are going to have a great time next year starting Teddy Bridgewater or whoever the number 1 quarterback will be.
My question with if Geno Smith starts, how many times does Darrelle Revis pick him off?
I would say that there's a good possibility Geno Smith's first start, he throws 3 interceptions.
All to Darrelle Revis?
Quite probably all to Darrelle Revis.
You gotta no. I mean, they really did stack up that defense in Tampa, though. So
Yeah, but Dave, you've been the one to say, when I said I drafted Tampa in one of my leagues, you're like, well, I mean, the defense ain't that. They got a great secondary.
yeah, they just gotta figure out how to apply pressure to quarterback, and then you gotta realize they're gonna be out there a long time because Josh Freeman sucks.
But hey, we got to remember,
He does. You laugh, but he does.
if all you have is a secondary, that's all you really need to get interceptions.
Yeah.
And who's the Jets running back? Is it Chris Ivory this year? Because Sean Green ain't there anymore. I know that.
The Jets just they're so,
They got Powell and Ivory are their first 2 running
gonna
backs on the
split.
they're
Jets.
such a weird team because I mean we do remember them going to back-to-back AFC championships. not
Built
too
off
long ago.
talent that their head coach currently did not put in place.
Yeah, and he's just kind of let everything fall apart. Now they need coaching change. That's
Sorry,
for sure.
Rex Ryan. This has to be his last year.
Did you
if
see?
he makes it through the entire
Did you
year?
see the stupid press conference?
That was
he did,
hilarious.
Where he was like, "I'm going to talk with my back to the." And it's
I
like,
can
what
answer
are
the
you,
question with my back turned.
like,
That's
what
not
are
what.
you doing?
He just freaked
He's
out.
just sick of answering the same thing every single week. So like, well,
He's
what is
losing
this?
it. That's
Yeah.
what's up.
He's a great defensive coordinator, but if you're not going to pay attention to the offense, why are you the head coach managing both sides? No, just stop. You got full of himself, got full of the ego, and winning off of a good coach's strategy, players, draft picks, and now he's just exposed for what he is.
So Geno Smith, I'm not buying it. I don't.
You're
I
not?
don't even see him. Honestly, I might not even see him starting at.
Will he start the entire season?
That's what I was gonna say. I don't even know if I can see him start the whole season. I think at some point there's a good chance he gets pulled.
And one thing I did research is Dave. I almost threw his name out there. Wasn't sure. That coach you were saying that Rex Ryan had talent off of. Oh yeah, that was Eric Mangenius.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot the name.
No,
Slipped my head.
I was
see
just
him on
throwing it
ESPN
out
all
there.
the time now, and I'm like, this guy knows his.
He does. Eric. The thing with Eric Mangini, I think it's a little off topic, but I'm gonna say it. He could scout. He could see talent. He just wasn't an effective head coach.
I think he was just in the wrong spot. If you put this guy in like a GM role, I think he'd be fantastic for it.
It's kind of like Rex Ryan. Is he a head coach? No. Is he a defensive coordinator?
he's
Yes.
down a notch. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we're trying to promote Mangini
Yeah,
to
but
GM. He could take over the GM position of the Jets. They need a new new GM over there.
No, they've got a newer GM. They're gonna get rid of Rex Ryan, and
but like I think this
Nah.
this week 1 start with Smith, you have to. You draft him in the first round. You have to.
You
You
didn't
also-
draft him in the first round.
Or
He didn't get drafted until the third round.
That's right. But still,
someone
you
said
have to.
around
I was
expect
wrong.
to be drafted in the
Yeah.
first round.
That's right. He thought he was, but I mean, you take a stab on him. Okay, first round talent put in air quotes. You have to start him.
According to him and his mom.
With how
he wasn't an accurate thrower, but that apparently doesn't matter
with
anymore.
how bad the Sanchez has been, the butt fumble.
They broke. How do you expect a quarterback to be successful with zero talent around him? I understand. Mark Sanchez is not a top tier quarterback. He's an average quarterback to below average. But he still throws
Plus-
less interceptions than Geno Smith.
Plus the Tim
He's still-
Tebow saga didn't help him for a year.
No, but I'll still put down money that he's a better quarterback than Geno Smith is right now.
When he comes
he's
back,
healthy.
when he comes back from this, and I'm gonna say injury because I think Rex Ryan might have kept him in there to say, make my decision for me because
That was just, I don't
It
know
was
why he was on the
idiotic.
field in the fourth quarter at the end of whatever.
I will say one thing about the Jets. I say around week 11, maybe 12, you're going to start hearing fans asking for Mark Sanchez to come back.
really, after they
think
were
so.
chanting for Tebow a
When-
year ago,
Well, here's one thing you got to remember. The fans will be quick to chant for any change when things go bad.
well, I mean, it's New York.
But when you start seeing that Geno Smith is not the good quarterback that he claims he is, I think they're going to be asking Mark Sanchez, please come back. You got us to 2 AFC championships, even though he didn't get you there. But please come back and please save the day. And he won't do it either, but still.
Well, and I mean, another quarterback. We stay in the same region. RG3 is going to start week 1 for Washington. Kind of a similar situation. Is he going to last the whole year?
It's
Or is he gonna get
unlikely.
injured?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, you got to remember that they play on the worst turf in all
The worst
of football.
field by far.
Well, and
you're
not
correct.
just that. He's the type of runner where it's like he doesn't have any care for his body.
That's one thing. I think if people are looking at a lot of his tweets, a lot of his statements, the one thing that those say more than anything else is the fact that he's cocky. And it's not necessarily a bad cocky. It's not so bad, but he believes that I can get it done no matter what. He's unbelievably believable as he tried to trademark that phrase. And I think he believes that he's going to be just fine, and that's one reason why he might just get hurt once again.
And the thing there is, like you said, he's so cocky, and I think one of the issues is it almost seems as if he's ignoring his head coach's advice on how to change his play style, how to become more conservative. Running out of bounds is okay. I mean, look at who Shanahan has coached. Elway was such a run-happy quarterback in his early career. It wasn't until we got him settled down.
That he won
and
2 Super Bowls?
2 Super Bowls.
Yeah. Were they back to back?
They certainly were.
Back to back. And he
Yeah.
did what you've mentioned Peyton Manning's going to do, just Elway right off into the sunset.
Exactly. I would love to see it.
So this shouldn't be anything new for Shanahan, but RG3 just needs to respect Shanahan
It's
for
an
the head
ego.
coach he is. Yeah, he's obviously. If I see RG3 out
But-
there taking big hits in the middle of the field again because he's choosing to keep the ball and run with it and not slide, not go out of bounds, I'm like, okay, he obviously just doesn't care about his body, doesn't care about his coach, just wants to be out for himself.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the one thing I'm going to throw out there. This is a big difference between you saying John Elway and RG3. One, how old was John Elway when he worked with Mike Shanahan? He wasn't no 23-year-old, and I'm going to say kid
Yeah,
at this
no,
point.
that's fine.
And two, I feel like from Elway's era to the era that RG3 is in right now, players were a little bit more mature. There was a different type, unless you're talking like, there were obviously players who were immature, but Elway was way more mature than RG3 is.
The difference is now we have social media, now we have ESPN, now we have 24-hour news coverage.
Well,
We didn't
the
know all
fans
these
want
things.
everything. The fans want to know what you're doing. They want to know when you're taking a basically.
I was just thinking that.
I don't really think of RG3 as being all that immature. It's just he is so, to a fault, confident in his abilities. And I don't think that's necessarily... There's some immaturity to that, but I don't think it's really the immature kind of definition that a lot of people are going to think of.
I don't know. I kind of think it's not like an immaturity of making, like, not a Johnny Manziel type immaturity, a Des Bryant immaturity where the NCAA is going to be like, oh, we got to suspend you half a game. But it's an immaturity to be like when a coach, a veteran coach who has been around this league for who knows how many years, I can't even name off the top of my head, says, hey, you know what? Here's some criticism. Maybe you should change your game. And you basically go, hey, you know what? F*** you.
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing on that end. Because, I don't know. I will wait until I see RG3 play before I make the final whatever about it. But from everything we've heard from him, it seems like he is, again, confident in his own abilities and will continue playing in that style that he's accustomed to.
Until he's run out of the league.
We'll see.
And I mean, I just saw this on ESPN. Bills placed Kevin Cobb on the IR, so Cobb's not going to be the starter in Buffalo.
Yeah, we got to take a moment to talk about the Tool thing.
Well, and they
he's
released
not
Leinart.
He's not the week 1 starter. They want to make that. I firmly believe that it's a smokescreen. EJ Manuel's starting week 1.
Maybe, I mean, when they say that Manuel is ailing a left knee, how serious is that
Well,
left
that's
knee?
the thing. They've been so vague about what they've talked about it, and earlier there were reports that EJ Manuel's perfectly fine. He could have played week 3. Mm-hmm. They were just being cautious, is what the thing was. And I think they saw enough out of him in those 2 games, and they really did see enough out of him to know that this guy's going to be fine. He can play week 1. It'll be fine. They want to do this tool thing so, defensive coordinators are freaking out. We haven't seen anything in this guy. Let's go back to the college tapes. They're wasting their time. So that way the Bills can go in there and just, game time decision. Oh, EJ Manuel's fine.
Well, and I mean, I'm looking at, and I'm reading the story on ESPN. Of course, like I said, they sign Matt Leinart, they release him. But I mean, how smart do the Bills look just to even draft Manuel? Because now they're saying, like right here, Cobb's concussion could be career-ending for him.
Well, let's be honest. If you thought Kevin Cobb was your solution to quarterback,
Well,
you were an idiot.
I'm not saying he was, but I mean, you go out and sign him.
He was a placeholder.
You get Manuel, and now Cobb, who could start in the NFL. He's proven that
no.
could.
He was definitely a placeholder. He
Yeah.
was there to give it a year so EJ
but I'm
Manuel
just
could
saying,
learn the
like,
system.
now he could have a career-ending injury, and you're not shuffling to find a quarterback. It's we have Manuel.
Right.
We're fine.
No,
How smart does that look?
Exactly. It reminds me exactly of Shanahan with the 2 quarterback draft. It's like, why not? Now he looks like the smartest guy in the room because he had a quarterback who was fully capable of winning games in the NFL.
And you're referencing Kirk Cousins.
Correct, sir. And so I think this is it makes him look smart. It's also just kind of like one of those lucky things where, like, hey,
Thank
by
God.
chance, we happen to have a quarterback who is going to be our franchise quarterback and down the road, but you might as well start him off now because we got no other options.
EJ Manuel, like I said, week 1 starter. Without a doubt, I think he's going to be fine. I mean, I don't think you look like a genius or anything like that. Kevin Cobb, you knew he wasn't going to be a long-term solution. And if you didn't draft a quarterback, you would have just had some other kind of placeholder type of quarterback. There's plenty of them out there. And in this situation, then you would have just waited another year for a quarterback in a better quarterback class. EJ Manuel, we're going to have to wait and see. He's one of those guys where, is he going to be a great quarterback? We don't know. He looks like he's going to do fine his rookie season. Not Cam Newton great. Probably not Russell Wilson great either. But it's a wait and see.
Well, and guys, last thing to talk about, a little bit of college football. The college season started off this past Thursday, and the big marquee game, unless you were the New York Times screwing up your headline saying that North Carolina is in the state of South Carolina, we had the 2-state rivalry. South Carolina wins 27-10. We see our first look at DeJavion Clowney this year. What were your guys' thoughts as South Carolina and Clowney with a first impression? Just kind of
Well, I mean, it's not like it was an impressive performance out of him. A lot of people right now are wondering, is he out of shape? What's going on? Did he practice at all in the offseason? What was he doing? Was he working out? Or was he just playing Madden? I mean, I think that's the big kind of discussion right now with everybody. And it's not really that big of a deal because he's going to get into shape as the season goes on. But, if you want to talk about a maturity issue, there's a guy who's not, or at least maybe not completely dedicated to his team and the game.
So the thing with Jadeveon Clowney is we saw in that first game a whole lot of tired, little hands on the hips, a little bit of walking around, no effort on a lot of those plays when he's supposed to be rushing the passer. And he was even on the sidelines watching a 4th and long play where there was absolutely no pressure applied to the quarterback. So I'm really disappointed in him right now. It looks like he took a little bit too full of himself this offseason, a little bit too much vacation time. The whole ESPN overhyping this guy after that one hit has just really gone to his head. If he thinks that he can just slide by and still be like the number 1 pick and the overall best player in the NCAA.
Yeah, I'm going to say right now after that performance, I am greatly rethinking my Heisman Trophy prediction because I said Clowney and Braxton Miller were the 2 to try to win it. Right now, because of that performance, Braxton might be the guy.
Well, we'll see. We'll get to see Clowney again on national TV, so that's the good thing. He has a chance to make up for himself. But it was just really disappointing to watch him come out and just give this half-assed effort.
And moving over, Dave, only reason I'm bringing them up is because they're your team. The USC Trojans.
They were my team.
They were your team. Silas Red didn't play, but you had Trey Madden, sophomore, 18 carries, 109 yards, 0 touchdowns. USC going 2 quarterbacks. They started Whittick, went 5 for 10, 77 yards. And, I mean, Colin Cowherd even tweeted, you like Cowherd, Dave.
I am a Herd fan.
He said USC quarterback Matt Whittick struggling to process basic stuff. Twice Trojans forced to call TO. No feel for offense 3 years in.
Yeah, that 3 years in this offense with Lane Kiffin as the head coach, and you still can't tell me how to run plays out there? That is really disappointing. This guy is going to be the head of the USC Trojans offense. Makes me a little bit worried. Actually, it makes me a lot worried because this is a team who still has really high talent levels at a lot of skill positions.
Well, and I mean, basically in this game, yes, they get the win over the Hawaii Warriors.
It's Hawaii.
But if Hawaii didn't throw 4 interceptions, it would have been a different story. Then we'd be talking about why USC lost.
Thankfully,
with
you
Matt
can
Whittick.
count on Hawaii to throw 4 interceptions pretty often against USC.
But here's a fun thing about Hawaii. Their quarterback, even though he was only 16 for 41, he still threw for more yards than both USC
208
quarterbacks
yards
combined.
and had a QBR of 2.7.
Yeah. Quick check on that rushing, though. As far as rushing goes, it's 192 yards to USC to
23.
Yeah.
You still want your quarterback to do something.
They run a pro-style offense. They run a balanced offense.
You got to have your quarterback working still. It doesn't matter if you're going to run pro, and you do fortunately get 109 yards out of just one guy.
And you also have a backup putting down 74. So it's not like nothing's going on the ground. They're doing absolutely great results on the ground, which is what you have to do when you have a quarterback who is as inept as Whitaker. And that is the correct word after
Inept.
watching that performance. Yes.
Do you think that Kessler takes a job next week, the sophomore?
I don't know. It's all on Kiffin. He's kind of crazy when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Because, I mean, next week, September 7th, they start Pac-12 play against the Washington State Cougars.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned until they hit Arizona State.
Arizona State. You think that they'll be fine against Boston College, fine against the Aggies at Utah State?
Yeah, I think Arizona State, Arizona, Notre Dame. That stretch right there, we'll really see how bad of a quarterback we have.
So, and then last but not least, last thing in college football I want to bring up is Penn State. They're a team that, of course, they get the death sentence last year. They have a pretty good
They'll
season.
figure the non-football related issue, we're going to kill the school, but let's give the guy who signed autographs half a game suspension. Let's give Florida, we don't know yet because we haven't figured out in 3 years how much time to give them off. They've already penalized themselves, but the NCAA still's like, we're looking into it 3 years down the road, guys.
Well, Penn State, like I was saying, good season last year. We're wondering what they'll do this year. Dave is still angry about those sanctions. That I'm just going to... That's a totally different topic,
It is.
Dave.
It's another day.
But Penn State went ahead. Bill O'Brien named his starting quarterback. They're going to go with true freshman Christian Hackenberg.
And
It's a true freshman.
I'm not too surprised here. This is a team that, like you said, since they do have these sanctions in place, that means very low expectations on the team, which means they can afford to get this guy and get him early reps. So that way, he's going to be a very good quarterback, and I don't expect to see him leaving early, especially since Spreadshirt. Come on. He's going to have 3 years in there, and he's going to be a very good quarterback by the end of that run.
And this
There's
is
a chance to be.
And I'm just throwing it out there. How long was their bowl ban? How many years? Is it going to be... Because the one thing I'm thinking is, he going to still be starting when the bowl ban is over?
He can, yes.
Because, I mean, they pass up Tyler Ferguson, the sophomore, a guy who's already been here a year. He knows the system. Well, he should know the system. I mean, look at USC. A guy's been there 3 years and still can't run the offense.
Yeah, that'll happen. And yet he was one of the top recruits coming out. Mm-hmm. Who knew? But no, I think Tyler Ferguson did a solid job last year, but it's the fact that it's kind of like a no risk issue here where it's like, hey, let's see what he's got. Obviously, he did something fantastic during offseason to show that, yeah, he can really compete for this job and even put the idea out there that he can just take over that starting role. So I'm excited to see what can go on here. I think that he's got a very good chance of keeping the job throughout the entire season, actually.
You hit the nail right on the head by saying you're not going to lose anything. There's no risk here. It doesn't matter if he does well or not because you're not going to a bowl anyways. So these seasons don't matter.
Well, and I just did a little research. Why not start the true freshman? According to 247sports.com, last year, number 1 recruit from Virginia, number 1 pro-style quarterback, 7th overall among high school recruits. So why not? Top 10 recruit, number 1 quarterback.
Absolutely. I'm surprised they were able to keep him.
You got to give him those reps. You know, might as well. I mean, yeah, you're lucky he's still here. And to reward him for sticking with this team, here's a starting job. Have fun.
Well, and that's going to do it for the Onside Kick. Make sure to comment down below what you think about anything we talked about today. Like I always say, we love talking to you, the fan, about the sports that we bring to you each and every week. And as always, have a good day, everybody.